One more initial setup issue to go. The firewall needs to let our incoming proxy traffic through. There are about 100 different firewalls out there that will work with Windows 7. I'm going to stick to the Windows firewall that comes with Windows 7 just because doing anything else is going to complicate the tutorial. In a nutshell, we need to let TCP traffic coming in from any address on any port reach our adapter's IP address on its port 8080, or whatever port you picked in the router setup stuff we just did. With Windows Firewall, it's actually dead easy. So from Start, then Control Panel, we pick Windows Firewall. The window that opens should show that you've set up your adapter as a private home or work network. Click Advanced Settings to get to the place where we can create new rules. There are a couple of ways to get to the same place here, but one easy way is to choose Inbound Rules on the left. Once you've got the inbound rules displayed, you click New Rule over on the right. The Inbound Rules wizard comes up, and we choose Port for the type of rule we want to create, and then click Next. Leave TCP selected, that's what our proxy service works with, and then enter the port number that we will be using. It's 8080 unless you picked something else earlier. Then click Next to move on. The next screen is already saying it's a general purpose, allow all that match rule, so we just next through that. The screen that follows lets us set the scope where the rule will apply. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm assuming we have not set up this computer as part of a domain, and that we have chosen the adapter to be configured as part of a home or work environment. The right choice for the scope of the rule then is to uncheck domain and public and leave just the private checkbox checked. That done, hit Next. The last step of the wizard is to add a note so we can remember why we made this rule at some point in the future. A name of proxy service and a description of incoming traffic to WIngate should do fine. Click Finish and we should see our new rule at the top of the inbound rules list. Okay, we're ready to go. In the case of the pictures here, we're going to set up our proxy server on network 2, which is accessible through the VMware Accelerated AMD PCNet adapter. We've got our router set up to forward TCP traffic on port 8080 to our adapter, which we've given the static IP 192.168.0.61. And we've also opened a hole in the firewall for inbound TCP on port 8080. You should be able to make a similar statement about what you're trying to accomplish here before you proceed with installing WIngate. The installation instructions that come with the copy of WIngate I showed in the pictures at the beginning of Part 1 are exactly 6 lines. That's about 30 seconds of reading. Once you've done that, it's time to run the installer. It's a pretty standard start. You'll need to agree to the license terms. Here's the first thing that we need to pay attention to. There's a warning window that will pop up over top of the normal installer screen. It may actually take a few seconds for both windows to appear, so the normal installer window may appear to pop up behind the warning. The WIngate installer is trying to search for other computers on the network that have already been set up as either WIngate client machines or that are already acting as the WIngate server. The Windows Firewall is making sure that you want to allow that checking. In order to continue, we have to allow at least private network access. The problem is that doing this is going to create a couple of firewall rules we're going to need to go in and delete once we're done installing. So leave private networks checked, public networks unchecked, and click Allow Access. This will reveal the installer window behind the warning. Say that you want to configure this computer as the WIngate server and click Continue. The next screen is just a recap, so click Next. Confirm the target directory and space check, then Next again. On this one, I personally don't choose to use the NT authentication database. It's more for when you're using WIngate to control a bunch of local computers that are trying to access the internet. Each local computer needs to authenticate to WIngate, and this option says whether to use the Windows usernames and passwords or whether to create a whole separate set of logins. For our purposes, you can just leave it unchecked and hit Next. I don't install the ENS anymore either. For simple proxy service purposes, the Windows firewall works just fine. There's a lot of stuff happens with that ENS, and I found it's more trouble than it's worth. I suggest unchecking the box that says Install ENS. That will also gray out the box asking whether or not ENS should be running while the machine powers up. And hit Next to carry on. If you purchased your copy of WIngate from Cubic, then by all means auto-update. But for the rest of us, we want to make sure that little box is unchecked. That done, click Next. Here again, the only reason I would click Activate is if you purchased your copy of WIngate from Cubic. For the rest of us, we'll use an alternative activation strategy, so just click Next. Okay, time to let her rip. Hit Begin. It's about 30 seconds of the usual stuff popping up on the screen. And woohoo! Since we don't need no stinking README file, let's just hit Finish. Alright, time to pay attention here. This is the step that probably one person out of every 10 is going to miss. And I'll bet it's going to be the cause of about 99% of the posts that claim this tutorial didn't work. So first, we need to press Ctrl-Alt-Delete and then choose Start Task Manager. When Task Manager appears, we want to choose the Processes tab. And on that tab, we want to use the scroll bar on the right to go down to the bottom of the list. Click one time on the line that says WIngate EXE to highlight it. Then click the End Process button that's down and to the right. When the confirmation window pops up, choose End Process again, and then close Task Manager as well. Okay, now we're ready for the second step. Click on Patch EXE and Control-click on Wingate.lic so both are selected. Then right-click on either line and choose Copy. If you left the install directory alone when you were installing the program, then it will have ended up in C Program Files Wingate, and that's the directory we want to open now. If you change the install directory, then open whichever directory you installed the program to. With that directory window open, right-click on an area off to the right-hand side. Double-check you haven't accidentally highlighted any of the file or folder lines in the window, and choose Paste. Patch EXE and Wingate LIC files should now both be showing up in the window. You'll need to click once on the Patch EXE file so the highlight on the Wingate LIC file disappears, and double-click on the Patch EXE file to start it running. Click Crack, and woohoo, all OKs. The most likely cause of not getting all OKs is not killing the Wingate EXE process from Task Manager. If you did that and you still don't get all OKs, then you might need to uninstall and reinstall again. If you do uninstall, just skip the parts about telling Cubic why you're uninstalling, and don't worry about running the Activation Manager to preserve your license. Oh, and the reinstall won't include the pop-up firewall warning asking if you want to allow private network access. The rules that are created there will still be active from the first install. So let's exit the patch program, close all the windows, and reboot just to make sure everything is stable.